Chapter 5. Tony. Above all else, above every traumatic thing he's been through, what Peter wants to forget most is the fact that he is transgender. It's just that it's exhausting. And yeah, he did technically sign up for that when he decided to come out for the first time, but that's the problem. He wishes it wasn't such a permanent fixture in his life. He wishes that it would be more like announcing his red shoes, or brown hair, or an A in his report card. Nodded at, acknowledged, and then moved on from. He wishes it wasn't constantly several steps ahead of him, the first thing everyone sees when he walks into a room. Instead, it's all of that and more. Openly deviating from tradition, publicly existing outside of the predetermined life is like painting yourself in neon green and standing in a crowd of grey. It's like writing the words, "Hey, I'm different," in big block letters on your forehead and going on national television. Even if you trash the markers, empty the paint cans, and break the brushes, society has their own. Society does it for you. Peter wishes he could be honest with the world and that be the end of it, letting it fade into the background like white noise. But it's not the background. It's never been the background, can't be the background, because it's a fundamental part of who he is, and has been even before he figured it out for himself. It can't, because it's always there. A reality that's dangled in his face at all times, pulled away when he tries to lunge for it and rip it into a million tiny little pieces. It's definitely not the background when he wakes up from a Saturday afternoon nap in the middle of a panic attack. Peter doesn't know what causes it, because he can barely remember his nightmares after they're gone. But he can't breathe, can't breathe. There's no noises, no crowds, but everything's still too loud, too deafening, too much. He stumbles into the bathroom and barely manages to avoid hitting the floor. Once he gets a sense of his bearings, he slowly raises his head, staring at himself in the mirror. His eyes are sunken in, and honestly he looks more dead than alive, but that's expected. His gaze drops down to his lips, chapped and faded, then to his chin, his jawline. Peter curses himself, knowing this is a slippery slope he shouldn't go down, but he can't help the pang of dysphoria when he sees only smooth skin there, no scruff or beard or mustache, only a few strands curling slightly, but they're basically invisible. He doesn't have much of Adam's apple either, so when he gulps, it just makes the feeling worse. "You're not a boy," a cruel voice in his mind says. "You really think you are? The proof is right there. It's what everyone thinks when they look at you." "No, it's not," Peter mutters. "So many cis guys I know don't even have facial hair. It's not. It doesn't matter that Peter knows boys don't have to have those things to be considered one. It doesn't matter that he knows gender is different from sex. It doesn't matter because the opposite information has been ingrained into him as soon as he was born and doctor chained him to a label he wasn't. It doesn't matter because the world sees everything in black and white, which meant he had to be made colorblind. He hears his phone ring from across the room, but he can't get his hands to let go of the counter. The phone rings again, more grating, and Peter finally goes to answer it. It's Tony. "I've got some materials we need to work on the suit the other day," Tony says automatically, almost like he's bored, like a child left alone with nothing to do. Peter can't imagine him spinning around in the chair of his, staring up at the ceiling with the phone head to his ear. They're far more similar than either of them would like to admit. "I know you're probably busy, what with the woes of teenage life, but you could take a break from parties and underage drinking and illicit drugs to come see me. That would be nice." Peter exhales heavily through his nostrils, a substitute for laughter he doesn't have in him right now. He clears his throat. "I don't think I've done any of those things, Mr. Stark." "What? God, kid, where's your rebellion? Where's your angsty brooding phase? It's a real thing, you know." "It's right here," Peter thinks. "I just won't show it to you." He's too long, Tony notices. "I'll order a pizza," he muses, doing that thing Tony's almost sure he isn't aware of, when he distracts himself from the problem only to address it later. Everyone likes pizza. Who doesn't like pizza? "People don't?" "Unrealistic," Tony says. "Anyway, Happy's picking you up." Peter blinks the known question. "Are you asking me if I want him to?" "No. He's on the way. You might want to change." Pizza does seem pretty appealing. When Peter does show up the compound, the remnants of the panic attack are still circling around him like a determined predator. He's wearing his binder underneath a baggy shirt that's paired with even baggier jeans and one of Uncle Ben's two large jackets. It makes him look like a preteen boy going through a phase, especially with how pale and skinny he is, but that's just the kind of look he was going for. "What's with the clothes?" Tony jokes when he walks into the kitchen, sits on the island. "Is that the fashion these days? Pepper's been lying to me then." Peter rolls his eyes. Then, soft enough so he can barely hear it, he says, "DD." Dysphoria Day. It's a dumb acronym that Tony, came up with a few months ago to help him communicate when he was feeling less than in a second. Tony somehow still hears it, though confusion is replaced with understanding as it dawns on his features. He glances in the direction of the lab and then looks at him again. Okay, yeah, that's alright. We don't have to work today. But it's not one of your intern days anyway, he cuts in, raising his eyebrow like he's daring Peter to argue. Come on now, let's get a slice before I throw it at you. He obliges. Movie? Tony offers, while Peter tries not to inhale an entire box. When he doesn't reply, he shifts tactics. Video games? Staring contest? Peter is the one who raises eyebrows now. Staring contest? Don't criticize my opinions if you're not going to pick one. He snorts, but the humor leaves him and he goes quiet. I'm tired, Peter says, but that's only the half of it. He's tired, yes, but not in the usual sense. He's tired in the sense that fatigue has claimed residence in his bones, weighs him down, down, down. He's tired in the sense that weariness has become all he is, all he will ever be. Sleep can't be that. Nothing can fix that. Tony studies him. Why? It's like Peter searches for the right way to explain. I'm transphobic, but towards myself. Tony frowns. I'm not following. Just, okay, you're a Stark, right? It's what I'm famous for, yes. Peter wraps the jacket tighter around himself. He's extremely thankful for his binder, but sometimes even that doesn't get rid of the pain. Yeah, you're a Stark, but, imagine if it didn't say that on your birth certificate. It said some random name, like Smith. You suck at coming up with names. I hope you... Mr. Stark, Peter interrupts, and Tony instantly sobers. Imagine it says Smith, and you just accept that, because, well, why would you not? And it feels weird, like it doesn't really fit, not how Stark does. But you still accept it, because you don't know anything else. Then, afterwards, you grow up, and all you've ever been taught is that people don't change that kind of thing. You're taught that people who do are bad, weird, unnatural. So, even though you don't like being called a Smith, and you want to be a Stark instead, you're still raised to hate the ones who feel like that too. The meaning behind what he's saying finally appears to sink in for Tony at that point, whose hand twitches like he wants to reach forward and hold Peter, but he doesn't. And that's how I feel about being trans. And I'm figuring out that it's okay. I'm transphobic, but towards myself. And I'm enforcing everything I'm against, but to myself. And Peter groans, hitting an invisible wall with his words. It's okay, Tony soothes, but doesn't make it any better. It's so contradictory, though. Peter is aware that his voice is raising, but he can't stop it. It's like he can't stop the thudding of his heart or the trembling of his hands. It's so stupid. I don't look at anyone else who's trans and think the things I think about myself. I don't think they're mentally ill or delusional or a freak of nature, and I wouldn't say it even if I did. But then I do the same when I don't pass or catch my reflection just freaking exist, and I hate it. I hate it and I don't want to think it. But then I do, and I end up spiraling and questioning everything again, and leads to more of this, and I don't know what it's doing wrong, but I still believe it. I still believe I'm wrong, he finishes, taking a deep breath to make up for the air he ran out of. Running a hand through his hair, Peter looks up at Tony, unable to hide the pain that's threatening to overfill him. I feel like I'm wrong. That, at least, is true. Somewhere down the line, Peter has been fractured, cracked, and broken beyond repair. He doesn't know when it happened, or if he's ever been whole in the first place, but the constant feeling of being a mistake, being lost, persists. It persists and ruins him from the inside out. Tears burn in the corner of Peter's eyes, and he wipes them away angrily. He's so sick of crying. He's so sick of showing weakness. Can I have a... Peter is so caught up in his own self-pity that he almost doesn't catch the "of course, kid" that leaves Tony's lips, as he wraps his arm around him and envelops him in a hug, letting his head rest on his shoulder. A sob escapes him before he can stop it, and he clamps his mouth shut. It's in vain, though, because he still cries. He cries so hard that it makes him gag and choke up. There's pain in his stomach that makes it worse than any ache. He doesn't know how long he stays there, talking to Tony's side like it'll protect him from himself, but he does. His thoughts are having a battle with themselves, climbing over one another in an attempt to be the loudest. Your brain is wrong, Tony says suddenly. Not you. None of what it's saying is true. Peter sniffles. It feels like it. The tabloids always tell me that I'm some rich, entitled douchebag, and that's on the nicer end of things. Do you think that's true? Tony pauses as soon as he makes a comparison. Wait, no, don't answer that. Shut up, Peter mumbles, but there's no real heat behind it. Of course I don't think that's true. Tony certainly wasn't ready for him to say that, because he takes a moment to respond. Coughing lightly, he says, yeah, right, that's not true. Then neither is what your brain's telling you. That's not how it works. Then change it. Peter stills. He's been living under the transphobic, ignorant belief for so long. There's some time where he upheld those beliefs and didn't think twice about it. So how is he supposed to just unlearn them? How is he supposed to push past all the ideas that were shoved down his throat from the moment he could swallow them? It's a roadblock, a jail cell he can't get out of. I will repeat myself as long as you need to hear it, Tony continues. Peter moves his head back, cringing at the snot on his nose, looking up. The man is uncharacteristically serious, looking at him intently. You aren't wrong. Nothing about you is wrong. Whoever made you think that, they're the one who is. You're not a freak of nature, you're not delusional, you're you. And there isn't a single damn thing bad about that. The voices in his head that's hissed at him all day, can't think of a retort. For one blissful second, there's no counter-argument, no misgendering, no insults, and maybe that's something. Maybe that means he has a fighting chance.